Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of DannieBSpeaks, the podcast. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and checking me out once again. This week's show, we're going to do the same thing as we've been doing. We're just going to research some topics, see whatever floats on my timeline, and I'm just going to talk about it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, so last week I didn't do the finale of the 4-part documentary from HBO, The Case of Adnan Syed, because I didn't get a chance to watch it until the weekend and I had already recorded most of last week's show. But the 4th part, it really tied together a whole bunch of loose ends. It brought together a lot of questions, mainly about Jay, just the overall BS of the case. Now, it focused also on the prosecutor, the city prosecutor who took over the case back in 1999. And even still today, he's still fighting the case, even though he doesn't work for the city anymore. He works in private practice now, but he's still coming out of private practice pro bono to work this case. And people are trying to figure out, why is he doing this? Why is he fighting this case so bad? I guess that there were things said about, because he went to the same school as Hay and Adnan did, the same high school, Woodlawn High School in Baltimore. I guess he felt like this was giving his school a bad rep, so he really wanted to put someone in prison for this murder to show that he was the one who got the murderer put away and all this other stuff. And he also was running around the time that they started bringing this case back. He also was planning on running for city attorney. So he felt that putting his name out there and doing this case pro bono and everything was going to give him an edge in winning the city attorney for Baltimore, which it backfired completely on him. However, he's still trying to fight the case to this day. And it's really sad. It's really sad that he is fighting it this much and he won't ever answer any questions over it. He's been lying. He's been caught lying throughout the whole ordeal, hiding information. It's really sad just how they're doing all of this. And it doesn't make them look good, but Adnan is still in prison and it still hasn't been proven that he has not did it. It's still a long way to go. Also, which was very sad, was that Adnan's mother let it be known that she has leukemia, but it was caught very early. So hopefully she'll be fine. And I'm going to keep up with that because it's just like, that has to be the worst feeling, just to know that you've been fighting this, for years, for 20-some years. And then now, you have this disease where can just lead to more stress and everything. It's just really crazy. But when she told Rabia that she had it, the only people who knew were her and her husband. So when she told Rabia was the only other person she told. She hadn't told Adnan yet. She hadn't told her other 2 sons. She hadn't told other members of the Muslim community, which she hadn't said anything to anybody. Eventually, they did tell Adnan because they were like, you don't want him to find out from somebody else, and you definitely don't want him to find out from this documentary that you have leukemia. So she did end up telling him, and I'm pretty sure he didn't take it too well, and especially not being there. But Adnan he seems to be a very positive person, and Rabia, of course, who is an attorney, but she is also a family friend, and she's the one that brought this case back out there and took it to Sarah Koenig, who did the Serial podcast, and she also has her own podcast, Undisclosed, where she talks about this as well. She said that, when things are going bad in their lives or they're feeling defeated from what's happening to him, he's like the person who is reassuring everyone else. But they said he's always been like that. Nothing about him in that way has changed. Also, where Hay's car was found a month or so after her body was discovered, Jay took them right to the car. Nothing was ever tested about the car. Of course, they found Adnan's fingerprints in the car because they were still friends and he rode with her all the time in her car as she rode with him in his car because they were still very good friends. Jay let a couple things slip clip recently to this day that he had never mentioned before. One of the things last week, the week before in episode 3, was he said that he basically told what quote unquote happened because he was about to go to jail. And that's when people think that he became an informant for the Baltimore Police Department. And he completely made up this story because things that he said back then just didn't check out, but they were never followed up on. The police said that they checked this, they checked that, they never did. Adnan's defense attorney at the time said that she followed up on this and that, and she never did. So back to the car, they said that when the car was found, now in the first part, people who lived in this neighborhood where the car was found said that they hadn't seen the car, that like the car hadn't been there. Like it just appeared not too long ago, but they were never questioned. They were finally questioned years later, 20 some years later. People who had lived there, they said most of them had lived there their whole lives. They said that car was not there the entire time. And if it had been there for 2 months, they would have called about this car that didn't belong there, just sitting there. And another thing that proved that the car wasn't found there were pictures from where the car was found. There was like new green grass. You know what I mean? Like grass that had just grown. No car had been over it. It hadn't been covered. It hadn't been rode on. So it was just like this fresh grass with all this dead grass around it. So they were basically saying that the car had not been there the whole time. So someone had moved the car recently and they did test on it. And it was probably like within the last month that car had been there. If that, they said probably the last 2 to 4 weeks, actually. Now, first he said that he was out playing video games with a friend waiting on Adnan's call because Adnan had planned to go ahead and kill Hay. And he was going to wait for his call at the Best Buy parking lot. Now, that had been the story all along. But Jay now said that he went to the school when school was letting out to go give Adnan his car back. Now, he had never said that before. He always said that he was playing video games around that time. So if he went back to the school to give Adnan his car back, then where did all this narrative come from that he was going to call him at the Best Buy parking lot? Because that's where he was going to take Hay to kill her. So that doesn't check out either. And Jay said that he didn't see Adnan, and other people are saying because Adnan was at the library. It wasn't the school library, it was the Woodlawn Public Library that was right next door to the school that most of the kids went to after school. So that's why he didn't see him, because he was at the library. So it's just going to be interesting to see how all this plays out with all this new information that came out in the documentary, if it's going to benefit Adnan and his legal team, if it's going to benefit them. Because of course, that Friday before the documentary aired, which was on a Sunday, the Baltimore, or was it the Maryland Supreme Court, one of them, they basically turned down the appeal saying that, there wasn't going to be a retrial. And a lot of people are saying they just did that because they didn't want to seem like they were going to be influenced by this documentary, which too much information has came out that can clear Adnan, saying that he wasn't there. And also another thing that came out was a friend of Jay's who they were allegedly over her house when Adnan got the call from the police saying that they wanted to talk to him. It wasn't even on the day that all this happened, which all along she was saying that it happened the day of the murder. So all this crazy stuff, all these things happened on this particular day, the day that Hay was murdered. And it seemed like that she was just going by what Jay was saying and didn't really check out things and check her schedule and all this other stuff. She was just going by what Jay was saying when he was talking about everything. So when she was originally questioned by the police, she just kept saying it happened on this day and it was around this time and he was acting real funny, like he was nervous and all this other stuff, which come to find out, Adnan remembered being over her house, but said it wasn't that day, said that it was like days later and he was getting high because he was nervous about his friend and, all this other stuff. And he had been getting high a lot. And he said that he was super high this day. And that's why she said he was acting strange and asking like, how long does it take for a high like this to come down? But come to find out, it wasn't that day because they went back. Somebody actually did some investigating and went back, and the things that this Krista girl was saying about that she had a conference for her school and all this other stuff that particularly went on that day. It didn't happen. It was another day when this conference happened. So she was all mixed up. No one knows where she originally got that information from. She was just mixed up on the date. And of course, anyone would get mixed up on a date like that if it's something that date has no significance to you. You know what I mean? You don't know what happened, but you're being told that this was the day that a girl got killed and the person who suspected of it was in your house. Also, a thing that came out was saying that Jay may have saw Hay leaving the school, followed her, and he was the one that killed her. And this is just alleged. This isn't saying what happened and people are saying he had motivation because his girlfriend at the time was a very, very good friend of Adnan and Hay, this girl named Stephanie. And Hay knew that Jay was cheating on Stephanie and basically let him know that she was going to tell Stephanie if he didn't clean up his act. So that was one possibility. Another one was that she was going to meet her new boyfriend, Don, who was older, and they worked together. And somehow he coincidentally didn't end up working where they worked together that day. He was at another mall. They worked at a lens crafters in a mall. So he was coincidentally at another one that day. So they asked for him to produce a timesheet saying that he didn't work at his normal store. He was at another one. The timesheet was done by his stepmom, his mother's partner, who they both were general managers or something like that of the lens crafters. And they had access to all that stuff. And she was the one that submitted the timesheet. People at that store said they don't remember him working there that much. He could have, but they didn't remember him being there. Another thing was he and a coworker the next day after all this happened, after the murder allegedly happened, he and a coworker were at their store that they all worked at with Hay, and Don had all these scratches on his hand. And he said he noticed it because they were smoking a cigarette and he kept seeing, his hand kept going up to his mouth to smoke. And that's when he saw all these scratches on his hand. But Don was cleared because of this timesheet that people were thinking was forged. All this stuff should have been checked out 20 years ago. It could possibly, now I'm not saying that Adnan didn't do it, but I'm just showing, and I'm just saying that it's been so much proven against him and so many stories that have changed and so many other people that were suspects. It could have been a random person because remember, she was supposed to go pick up her little cousin after school and then she was going to work and she never made it to pick up her cousin from school. That's why she was rushing and said that she couldn't give Adnan a ride home because she had to pick up her cousin, then she had to go right to work. So she didn't have any time to go here and there, whatever. She had to go straight to get her cousin, drop her cousin off at home and go to work. So, it's just a lot that was exposed in this documentary. And just think as much as we don't know, just think as much as they weren't allowed to say in the documentary, which they pretty much covered all bases. And just think about how many cases this actually happens to. Look at all the cases where people have been in jail for years, some 30, 40 years, and they finally get acquitted. They've missed out on 30, 40 years of their life, and most of them went in at a very young age, like Adnan. Adnan went in when he was he 17? Or I think he was 18 when he had to be 18 because he never went to a juvenile facility. So, it just makes no sense. And stuff like this really just exposes the police, the judicial system, and just how corrupt they can be. And we already know Baltimore has a bad rep, like a lot of other major cities do when it comes to their police department. But when you see that it is trickled down to their judicial system as well, it just makes no sense. So I just hope and pray that this helps a little bit, that his defensive team has a lot more to go, that they can subpoena other things that were brought up in this documentary, other clues, other alibi, things like just anything that can help exonerate him if he's not guilty, because we still don't know, but so much is going for him being not guilty and not being able to have committed this crime. It's just really sad. It's just really sad all around. The family, of course, of Hay is still saying that he did it. Of course, they don't know, but they just, they're an immigrant family. They just are believing in the judicial system. Of course, they have no proof that he did it, but you can't judge them either because, they lost someone very important to them at a very young age. In the documentary, it said that Hay would have been 38 years old if she had been alive today. Just think of all that she could have accomplished in her life that was taken away from her so tragically. Of course, because Adnan is still alive. And, even his family, has said this, he's still alive. We can go see him. We can fight for him. Hayes' family can't do that because she's gone, and she's been gone. So I just hope the truth eventually comes out one day very soon to give everyone some closure, because no one has closure, not even Hayes' family. They still don't even have closure because there's still a doubt out there that he may not have done it. So this murderer could still be out there. You just don't know. And I pray that the truth in this and the truth in other cases where people have been murdered and there's doubt in the person who has been accused of the murder, if things can just be turned around or things can be, just the truth needs to come out. And it's very hard to prove the truth, especially in cases like this where it's 20 years later. However, it does happen. So we'll just keep hope alive that the truth does come out. Pray for his family, Adnan's family as well, especially his mother, who, as of this documentary, still has leukemia. I don't know what she's gone through to take care of it, but it was caught early enough to hopefully she is taking care of it. And now that her community knows, and now that her sons know, and Rabia knows, and her family knows, she will start taking care of herself as well. So that was, of course, the case of Adnan Syed. I'm going to watch all 4 parts sometime this week coming up. I'm going to watch it all again to see if there was anything I missed. I'm not going to talk about it anymore unless something comes up, but I just want to watch it for myself. So Tiger won the 2019 Masters. Good for him. And he did it in a comeback win. Now, personally, and I'm just going to say it, I don't really see it for Tiger Woods, and I haven't since he did that Coblasian stuff or whatever on Oprah Winfrey show, which I get it. You shouldn't deny every part of you and who you are, but he never acknowledges any part of his blackness. And he also low-key is a Donald Trump supporter. That's what I gathered from it. So that just lets me know who he is. But a part of me also, because he is a black man and because he was so young and was getting so much backlash and all this other stuff, roots for him at a point. And, so I'm kind of happy he won, but the other part of me really doesn't give a damn. So there's that. But yeah, Tiger Woods did a comeback from behind win to win the 2019 Masters. So shout out to Tiger. Good job, Tiger. I'm just going to start this off by saying stay mad because Auntie Mariah Carey is being given the 2019 Billboard Music Award Billboard Icon Award. Now, for those of us who don't try to shade and forget all the greatness that Mariah is and all that she has done, remember at the 99, I want to say it was the 1999 Billboard Music Awards, she was given the 90s, the top artist of the 1990s. Now she's getting the Icon Award. So, that just says what it is, Auntie is a legend. She's an icon. She is just still out here just doing her thing, and the sad thing about it is she doesn't have to. She doesn't have to be out here performing still and releasing music. And she can live off of what she has right now. But my girl's out here still working, still getting honors and all of that stuff. So as I mentioned at the beginning, stay mad. So the Billboard Music Awards will be held May 1st, 2019, of course. And they'll be hosted by my girl, Kelly Clarkson. I like Kelly. So yeah, I most likely won't be watching it, but I'll try to catch her performance. I know somebody who will be watching it. So if I'm home, I'll just have them hit me up when she gets ready to come on. I can't stand award shows, but one way or the other, I'm going to watch this. So Auntie, keep being out here killing it. Let these girls know who you are, who you've always been, and just keep doing your thing. Laura Ingraham, or as I like to call her, Laura Ingraham, girl. So, okay, I'm just going to get right on into it. I got my notes for this one, so let's go. So after Nipsey Hussle's service, Laura Ingraham, which I don't even know why Fox News was talking about it, but now I see why. So she gets on Fox News, which of course is where she's on. And people don't know who Laura Ingraham is. She's some dry-haired, blonde, man-face looking bitch on Fox News, which I know that doesn't really narrow it down. But anyway, she's the one who pretty much told LeBron James, no, she did tell him to shut up and dribble. And he got her together as well as a lot of other people did. And she still has a job, of course. And she still has a job after this happened. So anyway, she starts laughing at Nipsey Hussle's death. Now, there's more to it than that, but that's pretty much what I took from it, from her laughing at his death. And she felt like maybe it was deserved because of this. So So she starts playing Fuck Donald Trump and says that this is his song and, starts playing a line from the song. And of course, the F Donald Trump is bleeped out. But, this song has been out for 2 years. And of course, she said it was a new song. So that's strike one. Then she proceeds to say that it was Nipsey's song, which it wasn't. It's YG's song. And she played the verse that YG was saying. So it wasn't even him. So what was your point of someone who just got shot and killed? What was your point of bringing that up when that wasn't even him? Okay. And it just kills me how much Fox News really does report fake news, but according to that side, they're the Mechadon of news and, they're not wrong in any kind of way. So, but that song is like 3 years old. That song came out when Donald Trump first got elected. So what's your point? What? I just I don't get it. But she just couldn't control herself and just started hysterically laughing at the song, but it was really laughing at him and his legacy. People were signing petitions for her to be fired and all that. And of course, that just went into the Fox News air cycle, and we're not going to see it again. But it's just, that just shows, that's just who they are. That's who they are. They just don't care. They have no humanity, nothing like that, especially when it comes to people of color. But yet they're allowed to still do stuff like this and get away with it. But she's going to get hers. That's, karma is a real thing, and it may not get you now, but it's going to get you. The sad thing about it is people like her, people like Donald Trump, and all these other fools who are just constantly doing stuff and are pretty much getting away with it right now. They're just digging their own grave. Every time they get away with stuff, they're just constantly digging their own grave. I have no words, none for these people at all. But Laura Ingraham, girl, I thought that we were over this. What was it, like last year, the year before, when you told LeBron James to shut up and dribble? You just don't learn. And that's a prime example why you don't learn, is because you're not getting reprimanded for these things. So when someone slaps the shit out of you, don't go crying. That's all I'm going to say. And speaking of white trash, so this little white troll shows up to his black girlfriend or black friend, female friend's door. So he comes to her house to ask her to go to prom with him. Okay, no problem. No problem at all. However, this troll shows up with a sign with the words cool spelled out in big letters, but instead of drawing it, he used Kool-Aid packs. Strike one. Strike two, he shows up with watermelon. And strike three, he shows up with a box of fried chicken. And what made it just all done for me was that she said yes. She thought it was funny. And what really took me out were the parents were okay with it. There is nothing funny about that. I don't care what kind of relationship they have. I don't care. There is nothing funny about that. And this poor little girl obviously has no clue, because she allegedly has a crush on this boy and really liked him. So he's probably been saying all sorts of crazy stuff about black folks and things like that. And she probably just thinks it's the cutest thing. But the parents, you're allowing your daughter to go to the prom with someone who showed up on your doorstep with letters made out of Kool-Aid packets, a box of fried chicken, and a watermelon. So obviously y'all thought it was cute too, because I don't care if my daughter would have been pissed at me for the rest of her life. You're not going to prom with that boy. I don't care. I don't care if I got to tie you in your room. You're not going with this one. I don't care if you're 18. I don't care. You're not going with this one. I really had no words when I saw this. I was instantly pissed off at the whole situation, but I was even more pissed off at the parents for letting this happen. And it was probably the mother or the father of the black girl that took the picture. So it was obviously okay. And she's holding the box of chicken and the box of fried chicken and the watermelon in her hand. And he's holding the sign. They're both just all smiling and looking all goofy and stupid. And I'm done. I can't. I just can't. I'm so over it. So if you haven't watched Beyonce's Homecoming documentary on Netflix, Netflix. I'm going to need you to. Let me say this, Beyonce gets a lot of hate, just for it being overkill, I think. And it's not even necessarily her. It's overkill from the Beehive, and it seems like a lot of them has settled down. I guess they're getting older and realizing that, there's real life out there. Now, she still has her people who will attack you and everything like that, and that's definitely understandable. However, I digress. Back to the documentary. It's amazing. And it's just like, what's amazing about it is just her work ethic. When you look at her work ethic, you see in her someone like a Michael Jackson, like a Prince, like a Janet Jackson. These artists that just take control. They take control of not only their careers, but they're going to let you know exactly what they want. I remember in Beyonce's Life is But a Dream documentary when she just said, basically pretty much I can't remember word for word, but she was basically just saying that, when you're a woman and you are basically calling the shots, you're going to be called a bitch. You're going to be perceived as the angry black woman and all these things. But when you're taking care of your business, you see the results of what she does on stage. It's just amazing. Now, I've never considered Beyonce a vocalist. Girlfriend can sing. Don't get me wrong. But to me, she's more of an entertainer that can sing her butt off, because her shows, her live concerts, her shows that she does are always going to do better than her album sales. I'm sorry. It is what it is. And someone like a Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, these artists that are known for their vocals, Patti LaBelle, the late great Aretha Franklin, even though people, yes, did go see them live and they shows sold out, people had a good time, but those I consider vocalists. Someone like Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Madonna, and Beyonce's in there too. These are people who can sing, but they put on a show. They're entertainers, they're dancers. These are people who you're going to want to see more. And usually, even though all of them sell millions of records, more people are inclined to want to watch them perform than just listen to their music. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, but that's just what I consider a vocalist and an entertainer who can sing. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, if you haven't checked out Beyonce Homecoming, and of course it's behind the scenes of her Coachella performance from last year, 2018. And just seeing how just raw she is, how real she is, just honest with her struggle after surprisingly becoming pregnant, and not only becoming pregnant, but having twins. And just watching how she pretty much sacrificed herself in a way to get back into shape so she can do this show, because mind you, she was supposed to do the show, she's supposed to headline it in 2017, but she ended up pregnant. So she came back the following year and killed it. And another thing that I really enjoyed about it was how much detail and how much appreciation and respect that she has for HBCUs, that she mentioned in it as well, that she always wanted to attend a HBCU, but of course she became Beyonce. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't have that opportunity to have the college experience and things like that. Just having her bring a typical halftime show of a HBCU, and not even a halftime show. I mean, this goes on in the bleachers at games, what you see on the stage of this show. It's just, it's amazing. Even if you're not a strong Beyonce fan, if you just want to just see someone's work ethic and someone just develop a show from pretty much nothing, that's what she gives you. I highly recommend that. Of course, this is my Netflix recommendation. I think it was my Netflix recommendation last week as well, but now that I've watched it, I highly recommend it. But it gives you everything and then some. So yeah. Now I know it's not homecoming season anymore. That's fall. Now it's prom season. So I kind of want to transition, but really don't want to transition from talking about going from Beyonce's spectacular homecoming documentary to what I'm about to discuss now. But let's talk about prom season real quick. Now, every year, the dress for both the boys and the girls gets more tacky and more outrageous and more just stupid and stinky looking every year. This year is no exception. I think that they have reached the epitome of trash bags. Now, I understand understand that. Now, I remember being a senior in high school and getting ready for prom and all that good stuff. And, we were a little bit, I guess you could say, more classy. The guys had on tuxedos and, the girls had, we had dresses on and everything. And, we weren't showing any much skin like, how the girls are doing nowadays. Today, it seems like all the guys want to look like Migos, and I don't know. I mean, it's just like dressing up is when the Migos put on a jacket and a shirt, and a headband or something like that when they're like at an award show or something like that. And that's what the guys are giving. The girls are giving titties out. I mean, I saw one dress where the girl had on, it was just like you could see the whole bottom of her boob, and she had some juggers on her. So you saw all of that. I mean, she might as well just not have had nothing on. There was another girl who had her whole ass out. It just looked like she had on a thong and then had the nerve to have like a sheer train on where you could still see her whole ass. And I was just like, really? I mean, a couple girls, I guess they're wearing masks now, like the little frilly mask or whatever, over their face. And actually, these two photos that I saw, the dresses were the bomb. These dresses were cute, but they should have just kept it right there. They had to put these masks on, and I don't know what that's about. I don't know if there's some celebrity that's doing that nowadays or whatever. I don't know. I don't really, as much as I like to dress nice, as much as I like clothes, I'm not a fashion girl. If I like it, I'll wear it, and I mean, I don't dress up. Dressing up for me is just basically pretty much what I wear to work, so I mean, I just never have been that girl, who has really been into fashion and stuff like that. Obviously, if you know me, you could pretty much figure that out. But I like to look nice. I like to, present myself nice and everything like that. So I just don't get it. And especially at prom, you would think that, and I'm getting old, and maybe it's just going with the times and everything like that. But there's a difference between going with the times, being fashionable, and just being just downright tacky and looking like you stink. And that's the last thing that I would have wanted to do at my prom, was look like I smell like ass. As a guy, look like I smell like I just smoked a pound and I didn't shower for 2 days. So, there's that. But of course, the pictures are floating around on social media, and they're always a joy every year. And as I mentioned earlier, they just get better every year. So if you come across some on Instagram, Facebook, please check those out and just see what I'm talking about. I mean, I was just looking at these like, are we serious? And every year they get more crazy. Dear Siri. So that's who that was in the background. Anyway, yeah, just get into that. And I don't know, but to the parents who are letting their children go out this way, I mean, it says a lot about you. And obviously you thought it was cute or whatever. And I don't understand, but let me start talking about people's children, because I don't have any of my own. So you know how people feel about that. So Jay-Z is reopening the iconic Webster Hall in New York City, the Manhattan, New York City at that. And it's going to be opening for B-side and underground concerts. And I'm here for all of that. Now, people who don't know about Webster Hall is pretty much a landmark in Manhattan. It's been an East Village staple since the late 1800s, probably around 1885, 1886. I think I read around that time it was built. But people who don't know, the East Village is like around NYU, some parts of Central Park and places like that. But it's a very popular area. And Webster Hall is just one of those little concert halls that has played pretty much everybody back in the day. And it was still having shows up until about the summer of 2017, which was the last show, and they closed it down for an extensive, quote unquote, extensive renovations, but had no plans in when it was going to be reopened. So here comes Jay-Z, and he said, no, we're reopening this. We're going to give a place for these underground artists to have a platform in a legendary building. So there you go. It's scheduled to open this upcoming Friday. It doesn't have a list yet of the performers, at least what I saw online as of today, which is about a week before the opening. But I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to find something like that. If you're in the New York area, you're going to the New York area, check out the Webster Hall. For anyone who really wants to hear real music, people who are trying to get discovered, or people who don't give a damn, they just like doing music just for their enjoyment and their passion, that'll be something very good. Lori Loughlin, girl, you and your privilege are about to get it. So, of course, Lori Loughlin, a.k.a. the Hallmark movie queen, a.k.a. Aunt Becky, she and her husband, Massimo Giannulli, I guess that's his name, whatever, he's a fashion designer. They both had the nerve to plead not guilty to the charges against them in the college admissions scandal. The gall of these two. I mean... Okay, so they're claiming they're the victims. They're claiming that they didn't know that they knew they were breaking rules, but they didn't know that they were breaking the law. That's what they're saying. They felt that all this money that they were giving up was actually going to a real charity. Girl, bye. I mean, y'all really have pulled it. I mean, and it's just not looking good for her just in so many ways, and I still wouldn't be surprised if she got off just because. But she's going around here just smiling and just having a good old time. You know, when Felicity's out here just looking just stressed out, she actually pleaded guilty along with some other people, other parents who are involved in this case. Lori, do you not think that there is enough evidence against you? And not only did you donate $500,000, but you had pictures taken with your daughters on exercise bikes to make it look like that they were on a rowing team. Girl, I mean, stop it. Just stop it. So there's that. I mean, you know, they're just trying to use that privilege as hard as they can. But now she's trying to put the blame on her husband, saying that he's the one that did it. I mean, she's a piece of work. She's a piece of work. That's why you cannot judge these actors and actresses by the characters that they play on TV. Now, she's played all these nice little sweet wholesome roles on from Full House to these Hallmark movies and everything like that. This is the real Lori Loughlin right here. This is her. This is her right here. Just walking around here without a damn care in the world. I mean, you know. Okay, so then they're trying to figure out if they're going to have her daughter, and I guess it's the younger daughter. I don't know, the one, can't ever remember her name because it really doesn't matter, but the one who had the YouTube channel and the one who had the video talking about how she didn't really care about school and all that other stuff, that one. But they're wondering if she's going to have to testify against her own parents, and she's scared to do that. Even though she hasn't been talking to her mother and father, she is still likely to have to testify against them because she says that she didn't know about anything, which I don't think that's true, especially because you're out here posing for pictures on exercise bikes, making it look like you're on a crew team. But anyway, I digress. So this is just white privilege at its finest. And speaking of white privilege, let's talk about this real quick. So at Howard University, everybody knows Howard University, historically black college, one of the most famous of them all. You know, I mean, it's like the Harvard of HBCUs. And I hate to say that because it should be its own, but to put it up there it's like an Ivy League. There's a few HBCUs that maybe looked in the Ivy League. Of course, one of them is Hampton, my alma mater. But Howard is probably like at the top. It's a very hard and competitive school to get into when it comes to HBCUs. So just think about that. Now, Howard University, if you've never been to Howard University or close to it, Howard University, Georgetown University, I'm not too sure about George Washington University, but anyway, those colleges are all in Washington, D.C., of course. Howard University had always been in a not so great neighborhood. It's like kind of like it's this badass neighborhood, and then there's Howard, just like this big area of just the college. So, of course, what do we do when there's a bad neighborhood and a whole bunch of black folks? We got to gentrify it. So gentrification comes in. There's all these uppity, rich white folks that now have, you know, these little dogs and just go and take a stroll through the campus. They're walking their dogs, and which, okay, that's fine, but you're not cleaning up your shit. So these Howard University students are feeling disrespected. You don't want to be around us any other time, so why are you, this is not your neighborhood right here, basically, and especially if you're going to treat it like that. That's pretty much what they're saying. So what do these white neighbors say about this historically black college? Well, maybe the college should move. Now, how the hell are you going to move in their neighborhood? This college had been here since the 1800s. How in the hell are you going to move a college just because you know what? Now that really pissed me off. If anything this week really pissed me off when I read that pissed me off because that is just some fucking nerve. And excuse my language because I really don't like to use that word that much, but it is. And it really pissed me off because I'm just like, that's just their mindset. No, you have to convenience us. That's basically what they're saying. We're not bothering you, you're bothering us. So since you feel like we're bothering you, why don't you just pack up and move? So why don't we just pack up and move this whole university that's been here for over 200 years just somewhere else? Goodbye, good night, and goodbye. But this is happening all over. This is what happens. This is a huge problem that people have with gentrification. And I'll always say this, I really don't have a huge problem with gentrification if it's done right. But when shit like this happens, it's not being done right. Because then now you're trying to displace people. And that's the problem that I have. These people move in these neighborhoods that they never wanted to have anything to do with. But they get these homes and everything for a great deal. And they have their friends and cousins and whoever the hell else, co-workers moving in this neighborhood. Now they just want the whole damn thing. No, you moved into Howard University's neighborhood. Take that shit over to Georgetown. Take that to the DuPont. Take that somewhere else in D.C. But it's not going to happen. The hell out of here. A Florida man finds his mother's remains at his childhood home. Okay. A Florida man found his biological mom's remains buried in the backyard of his childhood home 21 years after his father allegedly killed her. So this happened back in 1993, and he found these remains while he and his brother-in-law, the man's name is Aaron Fraser. So he and his brother-in-law were digging up a non-working pool and outdoor shower in the backyard when they found the badly decomposed remains of Bonnie Haim, which is his mother. She hadn't been seen since she vanished from the family's home in 1993. So this is just going to court right now. He testified a couple weeks ago during the trial that his biological dad, Michael Haim, he always felt that he had done something to his mother. It could just never be proven. A single shell casing matching his father's rifle was found next to his mother's skull. Lord have mercy. Fraser, who had been adopted and taken a different last name from his father, Michael Haim, made a tearful testimony on the opening day of the state's case against his father, who is accused of second-degree murder, according to this report. His discovery is being called a crucial moment in the investigation because Michael Haim had always been a suspect for 2 decades, but there was no body, nor was there enough evidence to press charges. The medical examiner also revealed that an injury to the woman's pelvis was consistent with a gunshot wound as well as an injury to the head. Michael Haim, who was living in North Carolina by the time of his 2015 arrest, had always maintained his innocence. He claimed that he had gone searching for his wife after marital problems and they got into a squabble one night in 1993. Though he did not contact the authorities, police only found out when a maintenance worker found a woman's purse holding $1,250 in cash in a hotel dumpster, and her car was later discovered in a nearby parking lot. Prosecutors said in their opening statements that the woman was planning to take Aaron, who was only 3.5 at the time, and leave her husband. Aaron was taken away from his father after court documents obtained by the station revealed that the toddler told a caseworker he saw daddy hurt mommy. Catch. The opening witnesses on the prosecution side were Michael Haim's own aunt and uncle, who both worked in the family's business. They said that they never believed their nephew's claims that he wasn't involved in his wife's death. I couldn't even imagine. I could not imagine. You don't know where your mother is all these years. You're the one that ends up finding her remains. And all he was doing was he ended up getting ownership of the childhood home that he grew up in. He wanted in a settlement against his father. And you're doing renovations, like ain't nothing happened. You not only find skeletal remains, but they end up being your own mothers. I can't imagine. Lord have mercy. Pops, you are going down. So there's groups on social media that are called no contact pedophile groups or something like that, something on that order. So pretty much these are adults who have fetishes and thoughts about children in a sexual way. However, they say it's not with a physical child. It's not with a real child. It's just the thought of it. Yeah, this is a real thing. This is a real thing. They have a hashtag and everything. I think there's even a group somewhere like on Twitter or something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I just heard about this while I was doing some more research on the Michael Jackson documentary bullcrap that they have going on about him. I just seriously have no words. people are really sick in the head. I mean, and I know this shit's been going on for a long time, but it is really out of control. So you feel that you're better than an actual pedophile because you're just having thoughts of doing sexual things with children. Okay. So yeah, that stuff's always fun to report on. So Kim Kardashian done bought her way to a law degree. I ain't mad at you, sis. I am not mad at you because let me tell you something. If Ohio did it, I would probably go intern at someone's law office like you did, because in California, and there's a couple other states, one of them's not Ohio, so I don't give a damn, but you can go and intern at a law firm for 3 years, and then you'll be eligible to take the bar, and if you pass the bar, you can practice law. So work. I mean, and the thing about it is, this is good. This is a good look for Kim. She's been doing a lot of positive things when it's come to prison reform, and, you know, she's gotten people released, and I mean, so she's doing a good thing. She's using her evils for good, and I am here for all of that. And of course, you know, we know her father, the late Robert Kardashian Sr., of course, was an attorney, most famous for being a part of the Dream Team in the O.J. Simpson trial for the murder against Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. So it's in her blood. I didn't think that she would be the one to follow in her father's footsteps, but never judge a book by its cover. Kim can be out here and she could become a sickening attorney, and I'm not mad about it. So go ahead, Kim, do your thing, and just keep doing good. Keep using your evils for good, and I am here for you. So actress Jackie is always giving us little blessings here and there. Now, she is one of the most shadiest people that you will ever come across her. You know what I'm saying. So she responded to a tweet that Michael Segaloff put out the other day, and his tweet was, "What's the most surreal encounter you've had with someone famous? Been thinking about this all day. Mine was looking up while riding a bucking bronco in Liverpool last year and seeing Hugh Grant looking at me, who then stuck his tongue out and then shrugged." So I think Auntie Jackie has him built, because she replied to his tweet and said, "Eartha Kitt slapped the F out of me. She thought I was sleeping with her boyfriend, which I was, but I didn't know he was taken." Child, now listen. I had to post this on my social media because I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, because the stories that you've heard about the late great Eartha Kitt and just who she was and how she didn't play and how she didn't give a damn. And then you had Jackie, who was pretty much the same way. And both of them, you know, just always got some kind of, you know, talking about some kind of man or something like that. But when she said which I was, I mean, that really took me out. She didn't know that old dude was messing with Eartha, but she admitted that, you know, yeah, I deserved to get slapped pretty much because I was, but I didn't know, you know. But honey, I mean, that truly blessed me. So thank you, Auntie Jackie, for that. I needed that laugh that day. So a sequel to Coming to America is finally coming out. Coming to America, of course, came out in 1988. So this is about 31 years. I don't know when it's going to come out, but they have been filming it. I'm thinking that if they're filming it this year, it'll probably be another year or two before it comes out. I'm excited about that. From what I've heard, it's going to have the original cast. Of course, they've seen Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy going around New York City filming it. So I'm excited about that. And I'm glad Eddie Murphy is getting back out and doing movies like we're used to him doing. And I understand the years that he was doing like these family-friendly movies and everything is when his kids were younger. And I guess he didn't want to do those kind of movies or whatever. He wanted to do the family-friendly type movies or whatever. And some of them were good, but it didn't really work for him too well because, you know, at least those of us who know the delirious Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop, Raw, Coming to America, Harlem Nights, you know, those of us that know Trading Places. I mean, I can go on and on about these iconic Eddie Murphy roles from the 80s and 90s that just solidified him as one of the greatest. And he still is one of the greatest, don't get me wrong. We'll see what he goes back into after this, but I'm excited about this. I don't care if it's 31 years later. Coming to America is in my top 5 movies of all time. It may even be number 2 after Harlem Nights. Harlem Nights is my favorite movie of all time, but Coming to America is definitely up there. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see what they're going to do this, if he's still going to be married to Lisa, and just what all has happened. So Wendy Williams Williams' soon-to-be ex-husband, Kevin or Kelvin Hunter, which is his government name, he has finally publicly apologized to Wendy Williams for the way that he treated her and basically let it be known that he didn't understand what he had within all these years and everything like that. And he's very sorry, that he's caused her so much pain and all the, just the typical bullshit. Obviously, Wendy gives no fucks because she is still moving on with her life and Mama is out here living. And we'll get to Wendy in a second. But he also, in the midst of after apologizing, he got fired. Not only did he get fired from being her manager, Wendy fired him as her manager, but he also got fired from the Wendy Williams show and the cast was heard to be celebrating. So there's that. Now, Wendy hired a private investigator. So she had known that something was going on for a while. But of course, she had to save face. She had to play the role because of who she is. But she knew something was going on. So she had this private investigator. I guess what she found out is that even when they would be on vacation or something like that, this baby mama, the new one, the side piece, she would end up coming to where they were. So when he wasn't with Wendy, he was with her. And that's where all the photos were coming of him and the side piece chilling on the beach and all this other stuff. So, he was just out there just like, I don't give a damn. I'm going to do what I want to do. And obviously he felt that he can get away with it. And Wendy was never going to leave him and he was never going to get fired or anything like that. He was that cocky and arrogant about it where he was just out there with it. So I can't be mad at him for that, but bruh ended up, getting caught up. So there's that. But that wasn't, surprisingly, that wasn't the biggest news of the week that came from the Hunter circle. So YouTube star Tasha K, who I've talked about on the show before, I don't really watch her because it's just like she just is a little too much for me. When she does interviews and stuff like that with certain people who are hot topics or whatever, I may tune into it, or I may watch somebody who I can tolerate and watch their recap of it and what they had to say about it. And usually they're pretty good, so I feel like I've watched it without having to watch her. But anyway, so Tasha K interviewed this guy named Avion Fallstar, I guess that's his name. And he is an quote unquote internet sensation who sounds, I guess, a lot like Brian McKnight. From what I hear, I didn't hear him sing, but they say that he has an amazing voice. Like he really can sing. And he actually on Wendy's show serenaded her for her birthday, sang happy birthday or something like that to her for her birthday. So mind you, let's keep all that in mind right there. So he and his wife have come out and said that he had a sexual relationship with Kevin Hunter. And not only that, he alluded to the fact that he was born a hermaphrodite or has hypopedosis or something like that, however you say it, which is pretty much the same condition to where you have both male and female organs. Not organs, I'm sorry, but male and female private parts. Let's put it like that. So basically, you have a penis and a vagina. He says that he did have surgery over. Yeah, and let's just get this. It's going to be that kind of story, honey. It's going to be that kind of story. So just get into it. Allegedly, or he's saying, I shouldn't say allegedly because he's saying this from his own mouth, that he had surgery that sewed up his vajayjay. So he just has a working penis now, but I don't even really like talking about stuff like this, but it comes into the sexual part of where all this goes from. But, he gets aroused as a female would as well. Let's just put it like that. But he also gets aroused as a male would. So let's continue on. This was the weirdest shit. The wife was present. She just looked like, and as someone mentioned, and I agree with this, if you're going to be a beard, then you need to be sickening. You need to be out here like he needs to have you out here together. Girlfriend was giving I'm the help type of tease, like she worked for Kevin and Wendy, but that wasn't the case. But anyway, I digress. This was the craziest thing. So anyway, he was giving a lot of scorn lover tease. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess he lived in this house with, let's backtrack real quick. Kevin Hunter signed Avion to a music deal. And I guess he was breeding him in more more ways than one, and just he basically became his manager. That's what he was. And he was trying to develop him as an artist and all these other things. And he says that, I guess, Avion likes sleeping naked. So at this house that Kevin had for the side piece, he also had Avion living there as well, but no one knew that him and Avion were having a relationship. So he had two pieces of ass, literally, in this house that he bought with Wendy's money, where he was hiding his side pieces at. One just happened to be a male, and one was a female that he got pregnant. So anyway, Avion says that he sleeps nude, and Kevin, I guess, knew this. So the first time it happened, he busted in Avion's room, pulled his covers down, and just started penetrating him, And Avion is the type of guy who won't admit that he's bisexual. But he said in so many ways that, yes, he's had relationships with men before, but he knows how to play men and women. And mind you, this is with his wife sitting right next to him. And she's just sitting there just munching on fruit and cheese, just not paying any attention to what's really going on. So there's that. But Tasha K was basically asking him, why are you coming out now? Why didn't you say this before? And pretty much Kevin just got rid of him as not only the side piece, but as an artist. And he started working with another manager or something like that. And it's just a big mess. Like, his story really made no sense. And it got very nasty and graphic and things like that, which there were some things that we just didn't know about. Some of y'all may like that and get into it, but I don't. Now, there have been rumors of Kevin messing around with men before. Obviously, they were just rumors that weren't proven. No one has come out and said that they had a relationship with Kevin, but it had been an ongoing rumor that he dipped in both the man pond and the lady pond. So there's that. But back to Avion. Now, he was giving too much. And as I mentioned, he was giving scorn lover. It seemed like Sis's purse was cut off from all financial backing that he was having from Kevin. And now he's coming out with this story. Now, he wasn't trying to bash Wendy, he said, but he was throwing shade at Wendy quite a bit, basically making it seem like Wendy couldn't satisfy him anymore, mainly because, she's a big woman and Kevin is a little man, if you get what I'm saying. So that's why he enjoyed having sex with men, so it was just a mess. It was a mess. It was crazy. If you want to check out the interview, just go to Tasha K, her page. I think her page is Unwind with Tasha K, and you can check this interview out. It was the craziest thing. I did end up watching her interview, but Tasha K's interview style is kind of weird. There were times where she just really just let him just talk, and that's what she should have done, but he was talking a little bit too much for my liking. But anyway, just a mess. But I'm just wondering how many more stories are going to come out like this, because I'm pretty sure if this is true, Avion wasn't the first male and the only male that Kevin had messed with. So this is just going to get even more messy and everything, but I'm still trying to figure out Avion's motivation for coming out. I think we know what it is. Sis wants some attention. She wants a coin. So there's that. If you can get past all the nasty stuff that he was talking about and everything, and just all Sis was extra cocky and arrogant too. That was another thing that I caught from the interview. If you can get past all that stuff and just listen to what was going on, it is the craziest thing that you will hear probably ever. But check that out if you're into that kind of stuff. If not, just know that this guy who was born a hermaphrodite or has some kind of condition or whatever, that he is saying that he had an alleged affair with Wendy Williams' soon-to-be ex-husband. A mess. Listen, you cannot tell Wendy Williams a damn thing. I have not seen her smile this much. I've even watched her show a couple times this past week just to see like the beginning of it and just to see her demeanor. And she is a totally different person already. It's just like, I don't know how to explain it, but she is out here on the prowl. She's really showing even more cleavage than she did before. I mean, Wendy Listen, you're not about to tell Wendy that she's not about to be a cougar, because I'm telling you right now, that's exactly what sis is getting ready to do. And I am not mad at her any kind of way. I mean, she is just throwing shade at Kevin and that whole situation, and I'm here for it. So shout out to Wendy Williams. Now, usually, I don't see it for Wendy. This is everything to me, because I just love seeing people finally break free, because you can tell that she was a totally different person when she was married, which people are. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you're married, but you could tell she wasn't happy. You could tell she was stressed out. You could tell she had issues. Now, just after filing for divorce, and not only that, she fired Kevin as her manager and from the Wendy Williams show, and the cast celebrated, mind you. The crew from the Wendy Williams show did celebrate his firing. But it's just amazing to me just how getting rid of that extra weight on your shoulder just makes you and turns you into a more free person. So I'm happy for Wendy with that. And there have been people who have been really reaching out to her who probably were banned, from talking to her before, or were blocked by her soon-to-be ex-husband. Charlemagne is one of them. And he always said, he didn't have any problem with Wendy, when he got fired and all that other stuff. He said it was Kevin. He knew it was Kevin. But of course, Wendy was going to take Kevin's side. Not only was he her manager, but he was her husband. So it's understandable. And he said that he never really held any ill will towards Wendy. But they're going to get together, him and a few other people who Wendy probably has been blocked off from for years. They're going to get together and they're going to go out and have drinks and catch up on old times. And I'm happy for that. I'm really happy for that. I can't wait to hear about it. Charlemagne was talking about it on the Breakfast Club, that's going to happen. And of course, I'm sure he'll tell us what he can from that meeting. So shout out to Wendy Williams. I'm really happy for her. Good job, Wendy. Now, y'all know I love YouTube. I talk about it all the time. I watch it pretty much all day long while I'm working or, before I go to sleep. I'm always finding something on YouTube to watch. And I do watch quite a few commentators and stuff like that just because I like hearing other people's opinions. I do get caught up on different current events and stuff like that when I do watch these people. One of my favorite is a older gentleman by the name of Timothy Blaine. Now, I found Timothy Blaine from coming across one of his books that he wrote, and they said Midwestern, born, California, living, however they described him. But I was like, okay, and this man had been in and out of prison. He has HIV. He's been living with that for years. He's completely turned his life around and has became a very good author. Now, he's not a big name, of course, but I just came across his page on Amazon when I was looking for books, and I purchased a couple of his books, and I was like, oh, okay. I downloaded them on my Kindle, and the two that I read were very good. His name is Timothy Blaine. If you're into just coming of age stories, real life biographies and stuff check him out. So anyway, Timothy Blaine is not one to play with. Now, this is an old school queen, okay? He's 60 years old. He's lived. This is a dude who has seen it all, has been through it all, has done it all, just one of the old school girls, okay? And he has no qualm in denying anything about him. He's real. So I didn't really know who this other dude was that he was referring to. Now, I know that he went in on him in a couple other videos, but it didn't really catch my ear that much. I was like, listen to a little bit of it, and then I just cut it off. Like, I don't know who he's talking about, but it's funny because when he reads down. But this read in particular, he did this past week on this guy named Jay Wilson. I had to go to Jay Wilson's page finally to see who this queen is, and he's a mess. But anyway, Mr. Timothy Blaine, or Uncle Tim as we call him, went in for a whole 23 or 24 minutes on this Jay Wilson dude. And read him to oblivion. It was just classic. This is something that you cannot come back from. It's one of those type of reads. If you're into reads and gatherings and things like that, please go to Timothy Blaine, Blaine. Go to his page. The title of it is something like Jay Wilson, You Want to Play, Let's Play, or something like that. But that is probably like the best read I have ever heard, and especially from a YouTube person. And you're always always going to get those kind of reads from these old school queens because they have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose, and they've been reading for decades. So you're not going to get nothing over on them. But I just had to throw that in this week because it really blessed me. I've been watching it. I think it came out either Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember what day it came out, but I have been watching it every day since it came out. I had to watch it. I'm probably going to watch it tonight again because it's just classic. I have it saved. I think I'm going to download it so I can always refer back to it. Did you know how some YouTubers or people who do content stuff like that, every now and then they'll delete their stuff and you go back and look for it and you're like, oh, they deleted it. I think I'm going to download this one because this is a classic for real. This is going to be a quick health segment this week, and I'm just going to briefly talk about intermittent fasting. Now, I've done this before, and when I did intermittent fasting the last time, I lost quite a bit of weight. And a lot of people don't really understand, and I didn't at first, how intermittent fasting would work and help you because it just seems like within a certain amount of time that you're shoving all this food in. When you think about it, it's nothing really different that you do. Now, the way I do intermittent fasting, I guess it's called the 16-8 version, and they have I know 3 different ones, but the one I do is I don't eat anything for 16 hours and I eat within 8 hours. So how it works for me is, and I may not be doing it right, like the way that they intend you, in the way that it's intended, I should say, but this is what worked for me because I still have to get certain amounts of protein in and things like that. So I have to kind of shift it a little bit and work it to my advantage where it would work for me. But anyway, what I do is I don't eat food for 16 hours, but I eat within an 8-hour period, unless it's a special occasion. Like say I was going to brunch today, and even though brunch is usually around the time that I would be eating, say it was like something early. Okay, let's not use brunch. Say I was going to a breakfast. I would just have to stop eating earlier than I normally would, and then the next day I would just get back on track. It would throw off my hours, but eventually I would get back on track. So anyway, what I do is I don't eat my first meal until 11 a.m., sometimes 10 a.m. Before that, what I do is I have water and a protein shake. A protein shake is my breakfast, pretty much. So I still have breakfast. Now, if I do eat food for breakfast, it was usually like eggs, maybe a couple slices of bacon, maybe some oatmeal, yogurt, something like that, very light. So it didn't really affect me too much just going and having a protein shake. And I don't do this like forever. I do it for like maybe 3 weeks and then I go back to a regular quote unquote diet. But what I do is, okay, let's just do like a typical day for me, like Monday through Friday when I'm working. And it doesn't matter if I'm going into the office or I'm working at home. So I start working at 6:30. But before then, like while I'm up and getting ready, I'm taking my medicine and I'm drinking water. So I'm getting like some water in. And this is in between, of course, the time where I'm not eating food. This is still in my fasting time, but I'm getting liquids in, which I have to. I have to have it to take my medicine. And I have to have it to get my water intake in. Still going to have my coffee. I don't care. When I start working, as soon as I sit down at my desk, I'm drinking my coffee and I'm sipping water. So I'm doing both at the same time. I just do that. It just seems like it helps the coffee for me go down easier. So after I finish my coffee, then I'll take my late morning pills with some more water. And then after I finish those pills, I'll start drinking my protein shake. And it's not, I don't drink like a large protein shake. Like if I have it in a shaker cup, it's usually not filled up all the way because I'm not going to be able to drink it all and it's just going to go to waste. Or I have like the little already pre-made protein shakes that you buy at the store that are already mixed. Premier Protein is my favorite. I also do Muscle Milk. I think the other one is Pure Protein, if I'm not mistaken. But, a lot of them are pretty good. Giant Eagle has a good brand. I usually get the Premier Protein from Sam's Club. I just get the big thing and they have my cookies and cream back, so I am in heaven. Which they need to sell that all the time. It doesn't need to just be a spring, summer special, whatever. But anyway, let me get back on track because I can go off. But anyway, so I have my protein shake. That's quote unquote my breakfast. It's not my first meal, but it's protein, so I'm getting that in. Honestly, after I have my coffee, I'm drinking water. I have my protein shake. I may be drinking a little bit more water. By then, after I finish all that, it may be going on like 10 o'clock in the morning because I have to drink slow. It kind of spaces it out. I can't have a lot at once. So by then, I only have like maybe a half hour to an hour where I'm able to eat my first meal. So I'm good. So around 11 a.m., that's when I tend to have my first meal, and it is lunch. And I just eat like what I normally would eat. That's why it doesn't really affect me too much, because normally, even when I'm not fasting, doing the intermittent fasting, I usually do have my lunch around 11 or noon. That's typical, I guess. So it's not really throwing it off schedule to me. Now, when I get home from work or when I get off from work, if I have something to do after work, like tomorrow, tomorrow's Monday, I'm probably going to go get my hair cut after work. I may take another protein shake with me to have that on the way to the barbershop, or I may take a protein bar. I may take some lunch meat, and eat that on the way there. But that's technically my lunchtime. If I'm coming straight home from work, or if I'm going to the gym, then I will sit and have like a little lunch, like I'll have a half of a sandwich or whatever. So I say it's 2 lunches pretty much, because what I'm eating at 11 is a lunch, and then my second lunch is when I get home from work, which is technically, or when I get off from work, which is another lunch, but it's not as heavy as my 11 o'clock meal will be. So I'm eating around 11 and probably around 3:30. So then I always have tried to eat dinner before 7 o'clock at night anyway. Now, sometimes you can't help it. You do have to eat a little later, but with this intermittent fasting, I really do try to stick to a schedule. So I try to start preparing my dinner and cooking it if I'm home around 5:30, 5:45, so it can be done, at least I can be eating a little after 6, but hopefully before 6:30, so I can be done eating by 7. So I still have dinner, so I'm still getting my 3 meals in, and almost it's like 4. And yes, I do have little snacks in between, which is recommended as well. So I may have like a little bit of peanuts, I may have, lunch meat, lean lunch meats, some cheese, something like that, maybe peanut butter, on like the little rice cake chips or whatever, something like that. So I really try to have something light. Pork rinds are really good. They have good protein. It's recommended for keto, is a good snack. Sometimes I like have roasted Brussels sprouts. I may have some broccoli, something like that, just a little bit as a snack in between, just whatever I'm feeling like having. So I'm still getting in my 3 meals and a snack, or snacks, I should say. So I cut off all meals at 7 p.m., 8 at the latest, if depending on when I ate my first meal. I may give myself that extra hour, but I usually do have my dinner done and eaten, I should say, by 7. So from 7 to 11 the next day, it's just all liquids. It's all water. Sometimes after dinner, before I go to bed, I'll have a cup of tea, so it's just straight liquids between 7 p.m. to 11 a.m. the next day. There's no solid foods at all. And I eat solid foods between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. So this schedule doesn't really throw me off to where it's like something different, something unfamiliar, like I'm going a real long time without eating. It sounds like it, but I really don't eat between that time anyway. I don't snack at night. I don't, of course, most of that time I'm asleep, but I'm just usually chugging water down from 7 p.m. until I fall asleep. So, of course, the time that I'm sleeping, I'm not doing anything anyway. And then I just wake up and do it again. I start drinking water. I have my coffee, a protein shake. Then I just go on and wait till 11 o'clock usually and have my first meal. So it's really not that different. And it does help me not only stay on a schedule, but it gives me that time to get a lot of liquids in. And that really has helped. And that was one of the main reasons why I did start doing the intermittent fasting, was to make sure that I got my liquids in throughout the day. But I do recommend intermittent fasting. Go on YouTube and research different people who have done it. You have to find out what works for you. That's with everything that you do. It doesn't matter if you're doing some kind of special eating program, if you're exercising, if you're doing intermittent fasting, something like that. You have to find what works for your body. That's what I highly recommend. Some people do the 12 and 12, and there's another one I can't remember, but 12 and 12, of course, is you eat within 12 hours and you fast within 12 hours. But I wouldn't be able to get that much food in within 12 hours. But I would definitely, if you need to get structured, if you need to get more liquids in, I would look into intermittent fasting. It really does help, and it's not as hard and strenuous as you would think it is. So that's this week's episode. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to episode 17. As always, you all are greatly appreciated. I hope you all are enjoying the podcast as much as I'm enjoying making them. It's more work than I thought it would be, but it keeps me out of trouble, so I'm good with that. And don't forget, you can listen to the podcast on the following formats: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Spotify, and Stitcher. And don't forget to also check it out on DannieBSpeaks.com, and also catch up on stories and posts and blogs that I've been doing on DannieBSpeaks.com over the years. If you'd like to reach out to me for anything, any questions, comments, concerns, if there's anyone that you'd like for me to endorse, anything that you'd like for me to endorse, promote, whatever, send me an email at DannieBSpeaks@gmail.com, and I will definitely get back with you. I have a few questions that I'm going to get caught up on within the next couple of weeks, next couple of shows. So as always, thank you again for tuning in. I hope each of you and your families and friends, loved ones have a wonderful, safe, and productive week, and I'll check you out next time. Peace and blessings. Peace.